Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Good evening to everyone, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to Bideshi Vibes. It's the 30th of August 2020. This is episode 5. আপনারা যারা যেখান থেকে দেখরা সবাইকে শুভেচ্ছা স্বাগতম বিদেশি ভাইবো welcome আমরা this is the 5th part. Mashallah, we got a fantastic program tonight, a very special guest. We will bring the guests in very soon. So don't forget to tune in. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. It is the episode 5. And with me is my team mate, none other than Kabir Bhai. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh. How are you, brother Yahya?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
I'm good. I mean, nobody can carry off that hat apart from you. Once again, it's another fortnight, another episode. Welcome to fb.com/Bideshi Vibes. That is our Facebook page. If you like, brother Yahya mentioned, if you like what we do, then tweet about us, blog about us, like us, share it, tag us, and get your friends involved in what you actually watch online. And certainly Bideshi Vibes will welcome you from everywhere in all parts of the world. It's been a busy fortnight again since our last episode, and you've been extremely busy. So apart from Lionel Messi, I mean the other great, the big news this particular was the Bangladeshi dinner party over Friday night and also Saturday, which was a massive success. And I believe you were heavily involved in it, not just in terms of consuming the food, but in terms of actually seeing the preparation and bring it live to our audience on Friday night.
That's right. Well, first and foremost, I have to say I didn't get a chance to taste the food on the day because I ended up going yesterday right at the end just to say a big thank you. Managed to take a small gift on behalf of myself and some of the team members here, just to say a big thank you to all the hard work. But the night before, we took the honor on behalf of Bideshi Vibes, as well as supporting the charity BRT UK, to go on Facebook and actually live stream behind the scenes. There were 3 locations where the food was being cooked. One was in West London, one was in East London, and the other was outside London, to be fair. And I took the liberty of going outside London with another friend. Why? Because the one outside London, they had a menu which included hidol hutki satni, macro satni, and bualma. So these 3, and they were actually amongst the top 10 items on offer yesterday in the Bangladeshi dinner party takeaway only version 2020. The hidol hutki is the top. It was the highly demanded item on the menu, so I had to have a sneak preview by going behind the scenes, as well as the macro satni, and of course the masbiran. A lot of people, I think we had several hundred people actually watching it live, and we were able to engage with some of the pioneers, some of the people who are working behind the scenes. We couldn't speak to every volunteer when we know that there were many people, at least 20 to 25 overall people who put together that event yesterday. It was a very successful.
I think we might have lost brother Yahya.
People were sitting down, getting served, but yesterday was all takeaway.
That was fabulous, I believe. I mean, we thank Salam Jones for giving us this exclusive peek behind the scenes. It was a phenomenal success, and I believe it could be anything from £4,000 to £4,500 that have been raised by Salam Jones and for the Bangladesh Regional Trust, which was absolutely great. And in fact, we have his cooking book, his great chef actually, and obviously we saw that behind the scenes on Friday. His book we're actually giving away today, The Bangladeshi Diaries, from Salam Jones, who's the author and narrator, about some exclusive recipes and some exclusive dishes that he does and is written about, and he's telling us exactly in his book how to actually make him and become Salam Jones himself, which will be our Crack the Code challenge, which will hopefully will be actually telling our viewers very shortly. Can we just bring up the clip of the Bangladeshi dinner party? If we can do that production team, that'd be lovely. Here we go, brother Yahya being a legend. We can't hear him, but we can see how busy the kitchen is. I mean, he's chopping the onions and tomatoes furiously there. I can see.
One of this
Racing
the brother the brother who's that's Abdullah Aziz. He drove all the way from Birmingham. He drives every year the night before to actually come and preparing the fish, the Bualmas pieces, the 100 pieces that he was literally washing as we were talking. He's a teacher by profession, amazing guy. I've known him a long time, probably about 2 decades by now, and he lives in the Midlands, although originally from East London. And he was doing what he does best, and he's fascinated by fish. By the way, it was quite interesting.
Yep.
Another behind the scenes discussion. That's mackerel. Mackerel. The oil is getting rinsed.
It's lovely.
The oil is being rinsed so that it will then be all broken up, bones taken out, and then mackerel chutney. I'm not sure if you had mackerel chutney before, Komil bhai.
I love mackerel chutney actually, especially with you fry it and then you mix it with onion and coriander, almost like chutney kind of stuff. I totally adore it actually. It's the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
I'm not really a great fish eater apart from prawns, etc. But I love a mackerel chutneys for sure. So I'm guessing you ate pretty well after the broadcast then, right?
Well, the thing is, look. To be fair, I mean, eating a lot of food wasn't really my objective. By going behind the scenes, but yeah, we did have. In fact, we had something. We had meat buna, which Salam Jones, graciously had cooked himself, and we had it with porota, by the way. So that was quite nice. I actually had a chance to taste a bit of that shutki chutney because that was the first thing made. So I was able to just kind of have a little sneak preview, and fantastic it was actually. I think the experience of seeing the kind of effort that goes behind something like that is, I think, very, very important. And a big thank you to all those who organized it, everybody who actually bought the tickets in advance, chose the menu in advance, and through it basically donated a very important amount of money, which will go towards the UK registered second, third generation led, founded British Bangladeshi charity called Bangladesh Regeneration Trust. And it's going towards what's known as the SIP, the Student Investment Program. This is where they've selected highly achieving, talented students who are also very, very poor. So that financial support is something that is going to be making a medium to long term difference in their own lives and the lives of people around them because of the sheer academic ability that they have. In due time, some of them will become teachers, maybe doctors, and other important contributors that Bangladesh needs. And people are being able to be a part of that, inshallah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually
Right.
fabulous. Cool. Talking about teachers, for example, our part-time chef there as well that we saw. We have a wonderful guest today that we'll be bringing to our audience just in a short while. We're going to be talking about the current education crisis in the United Kingdom. Well, it's just not a crisis anymore because obviously the results have been provided, but it has been pretty chaotic since the lockdowns, middle of March. Schools could be opening for the first time in 6 months, sometimes towards the end of next week. But a lot of parents are unsure if they are going to follow the government guidelines and send their children to actually school because obviously due to COVID and the current uncertainty regarding that particular situation. And you can understand from parents' perspective why they would be pretty skeptical and also quite fearful about sending their children. We're going to be discussing that now. So our guest today, and basically he's a wonderful high achiever, an esteemed member of the community of East London as well. It's Mr. Ashad Ali, who is the principal and founder of an academy, independent academy in Whitechapel. And I'm just about to actually give him due justice. I should have actually done this before the program, but his bio is very, very interesting. And we're so lucky to have him actually here in this particular program. You know Mr. Ashad Ali pretty well. Basically, Ashad Ali is the principal of the London Enterprise Academy, which is in Whitechapel. A fabulous school by reputation, and we've spoken to a few people, and we know a few people that attend his school, and they have great things to say about it. He's a campaigner for education, for racism. He's a campaigner against racism. He's even debated at the Oxford Union, spoke at the UN conference in South Africa against racism. So that's another interesting topic that we can speak to him with racial politics and division that we have in global politics, but also throughout society in the world. Another shooting in America, by the way, a couple of nights ago, and there's this distressed area and protests in America, as well as protests here in London at Trafalgar Square yesterday as well. He's also a passionate badminton player, which I'm sure will interest some of our audience members, and he has managed several Sunday league football teams in the past. Well, there's about 65 million football coaches in the United Kingdom who all love football, and we will be able to speak to him about that as well. So can we bring this highly esteemed guest, Mr. Ashad Ali, onto our show and an introduction to our audience, please? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum salam. Kabir bhai and Yahya bhai, thank you for inviting me to Bideshi Vibes this evening. I'm actually looking forward to see how I can contribute to your wonderful initiative. Everybody tries also, since you guys have seen clips of previous programs. It is quite scary. It is fun at the same time, and it is very informative.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ashid bhai. Zara জানেন Ashid bhai হইলা একটা ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট একটা উচ্চ বিদ্যালয়ের প্রিন্সিপাল বিগত কয়েক বছর ধরে একটা তাই নিজে উদ্যোগ নিয়ে সেট আপ করছেন মাশাআল্লাহ, এবং এটা সরকারের অনুমতি পাইছেন, এবং এটার মাধ্যমে কয়েক শত ছাত্র এবং ছাত্রীরা লেখাপড়া করা। ইদানিং আমরা ইউনাইটেড কিংডম ভিতরে পরীক্ষা লইয়া, বেসিক্যালি হাই স্কুলের পরীক্ষা এবং কলেজের পরীক্ষা লইয়া বাক্কা একটা সমস্যা চলছে। পরীক্ষার রেজাল্ট আর কি, পরীক্ষা দেওয়া এক জিনিস, রেজাল্ট নেওয়া এক জিনিস। আর বিশেষ করে লকডাউনের কারণে সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে বাক্কা একটু সমস্যা হয়েছে। এটার মাধ্যমে বহুত মা বাবা গার্ডিয়ান হল খুব কষ্ট, খুব চিন্তা আসলা, বিশেষ করে ছাত্রছাত্রী হল সবচেয়ে বেশি চিন্তা আসলা। ওইদ্য এটার লাগে একটা সলিউশন হয়েছে, মানুষের তারা রেজাল্ট পাইছে, জানছে। এখন আশা করি যারা কলেজে যাইতে পারবো, ইউনিভার্সিটি, কিন্তু এটার মাধ্যমে আর কি একটা থিকটা একটা এক্সপিরিয়েন্স হয়েছে, এবং এটা তো আমরা আসলে কিছু অভিজ্ঞতা নেওয়ার দরকার। ইনশাআল্লাহ আশিদ ভাইয়ের লগে আমরা আরো কথা হইমু এই বিষয় লইয়া ভেরি ভেরি সুন। যারা আমরা দেখরা অনুরোধ করবো আপনারা লাইক করবা, আমরা শেয়ার করবা, কমেন্টসও পাঠাইবা। কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকলে প্লিজ আপনারা আমরা পেজে কোয়েশ্চেন দিবা। We will try to mention every person who sends a message, sends a question, sends a comment as much as possible. And of course, Zara, don't forget you can watch this show later again, on our Facebook page, and inshallah on YouTube channel as well. So if for whatever reason you missed out or you've just joined, it's at the beginning, but if you do end up joining later, of course you can watch it later on, inshallah. But those who are already live, please join us. And don't forget, we've got 2 challenges. Kabir bhai, why don't you do the first one? Let's start with the first one, and then we'll go back to Ashid bhai.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's that time of the program again where we basically introduce our first quiz. This is with our audience to be interactive with us, but also win a prize with us as well. It's basically the fortnightly crack the code questions. Basically, these are 5 questions that will be telling our audience to actually give us the answer for, and alphabets within the first, with the answer to the 5 questions, will then basically have something to do with Bangladesh, whether it's an element or a symbol. Okay, so you take the first letter of each answer, and then it should add up to some Bangladeshi word, well-known word associated with Bangladesh. And the questions we have today, they're already with us, and the very first one is, for all our audience, name the country that was invaded by Iraq in the year 1990. I think it was one of the very, very first wars that actually been broadcasted live on television. I remember that particular war very, very well, actually, and still have some of the images from there. So this is, it's quite an easy one, should be, for anybody that's been born after 1980. Name the country that was invaded by Iraq in the year 1990. That's our first question. The second question is, what name is given to the female version of a duke? That's quite interesting, isn't it? What name is given to the female version of a duke? And the third question is, name the largest artery found in the human body. So name the largest artery, which is veins, artery, found in the human body. The fourth question is, what is the medical term given to the condition of hair loss? It could be COVID, who knows, in another 6-7 months' time. That could be one of the symptoms as well. Name the what is the medical term given to the condition of hair loss? And question 5 is, name the lightest and most abundant element found in the universe. Wow. Name the lightest and most abundant element found in the universe. That's a very, very interesting one. So these are the 5 questions for our audience today. Please do tell us the answer on fb.com vibes, or email us the answer, and we'll announce the winner at the end of the program. And the prize today is the wonderful Bangladesh Diaries, written by Salam Jones, a wonderful chef, humanitarian. That is basically it's his book that we'll be allocating as the prize today. So thank you so much for that one. Now, coming back to the episode today and our esteemed guest today, one of the things, Brother Yahya, is the confusion surrounding on how the exam results were actually obtained or ascertained or provided. There was a lot of confusions from the beginning of March up until basically the results coming out only about a couple of weeks ago. And I believe the final grades, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure Stasha is going to come in and inform us about it, but I believe all the grades for the A levels and GCSEs this year were actually based on predicted results from the teachers for the students without an exam taking place. Is that correct, Brother Rashid Ali? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of the system?
Right. So, first of all, couple of things. Number one, school that I run, it is independently set up, but it is actually a state-funded secondary school. So, any parents who want to send the school can apply through Tower Hamlets Council as per the admissions criteria and get access to that without having to pay any fees like any other state school. Okay. So, going to the most important question about exams. Right. So, initially, the algorithm was wrong. It was wrong on a number of fronts. As a school, we have always used a range of data software to project students' potential grades. Nobody knows what someone's potential is. When I was a 15-year-old, my teacher said to me, "You would do well to be a good waiter." Alhamdulillah, I have been a waiter and I've done a bit more than that. Right? So if I stuck to the advice, I would have been a waiter. Yeah. How life works. So in terms of schools, the way we project people's potential grades is we look at their prior achievement. Some people have prior achievement, some don't. We look at their ethnicity. We look at the languages they speak. We look at their parental income. If the parents are poor, the kids are not supposed to do that well. Really, my parents were very poor growing up. My dad worked in a factory. My mom didn't work outside the home. So, that would have put me in a lot of disadvantage. Again, we also look at the month that the child is born in. A September child has an advantage over a child born in July and August because, they get 11, 12 months head start. So when you put all that into a mixture and use an algorithm, right, it comes up with some grades. So it doesn't matter, what your potential is, right? But this would have generated a grade for you. What the examples then did was they looked at schools' historic performance. And they said some children have to fail. In every school, some subjects, somebody fails. Some subjects, kids will do well. No more than 5% will get grade 9s. So when they looked at all these, in A-level cases, no more than 5% should get more than A star, and so on. Right? So as a school, we went through a very rigorous progress of making sure the grades were fair and it was up to scrutiny and challenge, because there's nothing worse than inflating grades where the child then uses those grades to get to the wrong college or university course and they struggle, or we don't like the children or their behavior or the attributes and therefore you grade them low and you disadvantage them for the future. I had many Zoom conference calls. We went through every single child for every single subject. Some heads of subjects were brought back to school during lockdown. We brought them back. We wanted them to find the evidence of the mock exam that the children did in February, the mock exam they did in November, the year 10 exam they did in June, right? The prior attainment data we had, at the end of year test that we have been doing, which is nationally assessed. And based on all that, we wanted to find out a most appropriate grade for children. Let me give you a classic example. We had some staff who said, this child not been in school for the last 3 months. This child's behavior is awful, so therefore they can't get a good grade. And I said, when a child or an adult presents you an A-level or GCSE or university certificate, you don't know if their attendance was good. You don't know if their behavior was good. That piece of paper tells you their ability and their attributes. right? Some cases where my teachers were adamant, I even brought children back in. I said, right, you find me a random test paper that they haven't done before. I'm going to write to the parents. We're going to call them up. We're going to bring the child in, put the social distance, and give them a chance to have a crack at an exam paper unseen, so that you can have a better understanding of the child. So that system was very, very robust. Yes, it was slightly inflated. Okay, overall, as a country, the results were slightly inflated. And the reason for that is when we teach children, we know them as young people who are not under stress condition. They haven't got the 9, 10, 11, 12 GCSEs, 2, 3 papers in each one, between 25 and 30 exams to plan for. So you are giving them a grade based on how well you know those children. A lot of children, when it comes to exam, they struggle mentally to cope. One exam in the morning, one in the afternoon. Sometimes you get 3 exams in a day, or you have to be kept isolated from all the other kids. But second, that causes an enormous amount of stress. Then you've got the parental expectation. Your neighbor's child is so well, therefore we expect you to do well as well. Then some cases, during May and June, some families sadly have family issues, bereavement, rehousing, eviction, and so on and so forth. And these kids then suffer. So when the teachers put those grades for those children, they put it on the basis that none of those factors are going to happen to those kids. Therefore, it is slightly higher. However, there are a number of students who are really good at organizing themselves, who can plan ahead, who can take one exam at a time. Once the exam's finished, scrap the books, move on to the next one, and they do really well. And small number of people, I don't know about you guys, right? I passed my driving test when I was 17 and 29 days. 17 and 29 days, right? That's okay. Other people could do crash courses for revision, and their performance would have improved. So we've got children who receive lots of 9s and 1.7, and the mom and dad and the child is not happy with the grade 7, because given the opportunity, they probably could have gone 8 or 9. So these are the issues that we have. But overall, the center assess grade in this circumstances is the fairest approach, because what you don't want to do is say, this school hasn't done that well, or in this subject like physics, the school hasn't done well. The school might have changed the physics teacher, right? They might have a new batch of children who are academically slightly different. Okay, so there will be different factors. Therefore, it would be difficult for anyone sitting behind a computer and say, let's use the algorithm. Some children have to get used, some will get 9s and 8s, and let's create an even distribution. Because what I did as a school was I made sure that in every single subject, nobody got an U. And that's not by cheating. I said to my teachers, you know those children very well. Yes, we had some kids who were supposed to get grade U. And I said, these children are going to come back to us and say, my teacher, after 2-3 years of doing that, things, I am ungraded. That's not fair. So what we've done is, in end of May, we've paid additional penalty fees to the exam board to withdraw those children from those exams. So instead of a child getting 11 GCSE from a school, they've got 10 GCSE grades, okay? So that the child then has a set of grades without a U. But if the algorithm was allowed to continue, they would come back and say this exam center must have small percentage of U's. Therefore, the ones who ended up with grade 2s and grade 3s would have ended up with the U's. And that would have been really unfair. And I saw a number of cases where children were predicted by their colleges and sixth form centers A, and they ended up with B, C, and E. Now, how on earth are these children going to get to an university course that they were accepted with provisional grades? It would be impossible. So one of the setbacks for that whole fiasco is a number of young people would have been denied the university places, and they might have to take a gap year. And the country as a whole has put a figure on people's annual income or annual life expectancy, and they said an average person in the UK is worth £30,000 a year. So these children would have been denied that opportunity to go to workplace 1 year early, and instead, in this circumstance, they'll have to probably spend their time volunteering, getting jobs. Is going to be really, really difficult because people are furloughed, companies are not recruiting, and it would put them at a disadvantage. But however, the children who did GCSEs, vast majority of them will be able to go into the college courses applied for, and sixth form centers that I've got contacts with have promised to honor the teacher assessment grades and make sure those children can progress to the next stage of their careers.
Thank you, Ashid Bhai. Turgut Alp, just a comment to read for anyone who's commenting. We will try to read those out. Turgut Alp says, did all the students get the results they were predicted by the teacher's assessments? We know that this became the second option after the first saga, which was trying to use the algorithm to actually predict those, and the government obviously did a massive U-turn. It was quite stubborn initially, and then realized that this is not going to be in their favor, because we saw what happened in Scotland and other places. So when the teachers predicted the grades, did the actual students end up getting those then?
Most of them did, right? And what actually happened was the exam board's regulator Ofqual agreed that the minimum the child will get is the teacher's grades, and where the exam board decided to provide a higher grade, the higher grade will stand. And again, in a school like ours, where a small number of children in science whose grades were upgraded from the teacher assessed grades, so they ended up with a higher grade to get the balance right. Okay, so nobody would have got anything less than the teacher assessed grades. However, like I said earlier on, I have got a number of unhappy parents. If the child did the exam, they would have accepted and said, look, this is probably what the child did on the day of the exam. They probably missed out a question, or they probably didn't understand the 10-mark question. Hence, instead of getting a grade 7, they got a grade 6. Now, the parents are coming straight to me as a teacher, blaming my staff for undergrading the child. So the response I have given is, as a school, we want to support children who spent 4.5, 5 years in our school. So if they want to redo the exam in November, we will pay for them to sit the exam. The difficulty here is vast majority of, especially our Bangladeshi children, and I'm saying vast majority because I've spoken to people not only in London but Greater Manchester. Since March, they haven't done proper focused studying if they're A11, right? Because for them there's no exams, right? For them there's no exams. They thought, this is my level 3 qualification that I'm going to move into. It's either A levels or BTEC, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to spend the time, whether it's playing games or make sure that my family is safe, stay indoors, waking up late. And if these children are now asked to do an exam in November using the full content of the syllabus, where they've not only missed the last few weeks of the content, but they probably would have forgotten what they learned in the previous 18 months. It is a big ask, right? So my advice would be to parents, accept the grades you've got, move to the college. If it's an English or maths that you didn't get a level grade 4, grade 5, then you must resit, because it's important that you get that qualification. Well, if it's any other subject, accept it, move on to the next phase of the career, next phase of education for your children, and put that behind you and go forward.
Yeah, thank you, Ashid Bhai. Obviously, that is a compromise. However, there are headlines that maybe this is the future of what exams will look like as well. We're going to come back to the long-term implications of the loss of 6 months education, even on my children who are age 14 and 7, is that what are the long-term impact that it will have, but also the important element about the children missing a significant practical experience of revising for exams, being under pressure and performing to a time constraint. Those kind of experiences cannot be bought, cannot be done theoretically. It has to be practiced, and we will see what the future for these children are, certainly this age group, because they have actually missed that experience, and they could even miss it next year. We will come back to who is to blame for this current fiasco and this current chaos, whether it's Gavin Williamson or the government in general. But before I do that, once again, we have to inform our audience about our Crack the Code challenge today, which has the wonderful gift of the Bangladeshi Diaries, the cooking book from Salam Jones, who's the author. And as you know, viewers already, this one actually, even our Bangladeshi audience can actually send us the answer. We can definitely post and package it to them in Bangladesh, because it doesn't involve any food eatery, certainly based in London. So the 5 questions again is once again they're on the screen, and if you send us the answers, youtube.com Bideshi Vibes. And the first question is, name the country that was invaded by Iraq in the year 1990. A clue for anybody born in 1980 plus, think of Saddam Hussein, and you've got to think about the country. Question 2, what name is given to the female version of a duke? Question 3, name the largest artery found in the human body. Question 4, what is the medical term given to the condition of hair loss? Question 5, name the lightest and most abundant element found in the universe. So challenge should be a 5-letter word today, and you take basically the first alphabet of the answer, all 5 questions. I'm sure our principal knows this, but we're not going to be asking him any of the questions because he's not allowed to enter. His time will come further down the show. Now, brother Ashid, I mean, the thing is, in terms of, obviously Gavin Williamson has taken a lot of flack from parents, from student unions, and also from teachers' unions as well. But due to COVID being such an unprecedented situation, and nobody saw this forthcoming, how would you have personally approached the scenario? What would have been the most fair and equitable solution for grades to be given, provided on a meritocratic basis, on how it should be, how we got our qualifications ourselves? What would you have done differently?
So first of all, there needs to be some accountability. If I mess up with my school, there is accountability. I expect my governors to take some actions. The government knew from March. They announced lockdown in March. They knew exams were cancelled. They should not have to wait for A-level students to demonstrate. We are all different. Those of us who've got several siblings in our homes, we've got different interests, different minds, different ways of learning, different ways of working. You cannot use an algorithm just to randomly give grades. And some of them were absolutely random. Okay. I mentioned earlier on, I set up the school in Tower Hamlets. I could have done that in other places. Maybe I would have had an easier time elsewhere, because Tower Hamlets as a borough was anti-free school when I was setting the school up, and they were anti-academy, right? But however, the reason why I did that was when I moved from Greater Manchester to Tower Hamlets, I started teaching Stepney Green School, and I saw those boys in that school, and I realized, they live in the shadows of Canary Wharf. They live in the shadows of City of London, right? These jobs are supposed to be theirs, but people from outside are coming in, working a few years, driving nice cars, living in nice apartments, disappearing, okay? But our boys and girls were struggling, right? So hence, we need to raise ambitions and have belief. And you've seen how Tower Hamlets and the Bengali community in that area has excelled in education. And, it is down to some policies by the local authority as well, which, if you ask me a question, I'm happy to answer, right? So these education experiences open doors. If we judge these children based on their parents' experience, yes, there are small numbers of parents who became very successful. A large number of them were working in self-employment, whether we look at the catering industry, factories, taxis, you name it, there's a few others. We can't label those children based on their parents. It's not fair. It's not a fair way to assess them. Nor can we label them based on their older brothers. Now, I've got 2 older brothers, 1 younger brother, 2 younger sisters. If I was judged based on my older brother, who had to leave school at 16, work in a restaurant, support the family income, support the family back in Bangladesh, whatever he got for GCSE, which is nothing, and the school says, you're from that family, therefore you should get nothing, that would not be a fair assessment of me. My second brother is Hafiz Molana. He had a different career path. You cannot judge me based on his experience, right? Now, my youngest sister is now a medical doctor. She's a GP. You can't compare me to her either. We're different, right? So hence the fairest system the government had, between March, but April, May, June, July, and then end of August is the GCSE exams, middle of August is A-levels. 4.5 to 5 months to work out a formula, right? The teaching force told you, we've done homework for you. These are, because every year with what we do is we send estimated grades before the children do the exams. And vast majority of the grades are accurate. And I mean vast majority, okay? We look at 70% plus, which are accurate.
The predicted grades, you mean?
Predicted grades that the teachers gave for the children, about 7% are accurate. And what I then said to you earlier in the program is, where the children slightly deviate is once we've given the predicted grade in February, if something happens to this child or the family between February and May, June, when they do the exams, that can affect their performance. significantly. And things do happen sadly.
Mm-hmm.
That it's children taking a wrong turning, joining gangs and whatever. Or in some cases, my younger brother was predicted lots of D's and E's as being good grades. I went to a parents' evening and I sat with those teachers. Some of them taught me in the same school. I came home and I gave an ultimatum as a younger brother, and it was about February. I said, look, you've got a choice. Right? You buckle up, right? Study every evening for 4 hours until you do your exams, and I will give you £200. Now, that was back in the probably 1997, 98. And third is, you quit school, you go and work in a restaurant, and that's your choice. Because I'm not happy with those grades. He passed every single GCSE grade, C's and B's, went on to college and did a law degree, right? So it made a difference. So, some people will buckle up, and I've seen that happening in the London, Town and Newham, and hence the grades are higher, okay? No, small numbers wouldn't, and we accept that, right? But if the teachers have gone through the rigorous process of writing to the exam board and say, look, this is based on this evidence, and the example I gave you before is a lot of schools do 2 mock exams now. We've done in November and February, right? Year 10 exams are in June. That's 3 exams. Then you've got the year 9, 8, 7 exams. Parents get the reports, end of the year reports. But a lot of schools also do GL assessments, which are nationally tested, externally verified exams. So we've got evidence of this, which works out a flight path for those children. We also get the SATs data, which is quite old. Okay, if we just use the flight path from the SATs data, small number of my students would have been significantly disadvantaged because they came from Italy and Portugal and so on, and they didn't get a good SATs results. But since then, they had 5 years to learn the English language, and a number of them came out with straight 9s and 8s.
Oh, wow.
And our algorithm would have, the FFT data that we use, which is called Fisher Family Trust data, projected them to get 5s and 6. Right? So there's a huge difference. So the best way forward would have been the teacher assessed grades. So what we need is, by opposition MPs and so on, to question the government of the day and say, you let young people down. The GCSE kids, yes, they've made it to the colleges. Vast majority of them would be happy with what they've got and they'll be content. Small numbers will blame the teachers, fair enough. Right? But the A-level kids, universities are struggling. They've made offers based on those teacher assessed grades or estimated grades that was given to them, and they were told if you achieve those grades in your exams and you've got certificates with those grades on, you get a place. A lot of them, based on the algorithm, got significantly low grades, and the trend it was mostly poorer children from inner city areas.
Yes, of course.
In cases, the independent schools, the richer children, actually increased, right? And that was sad. That was really disappointing. So they would have got secured university places at the expense of children who desperately need university for social mobility. And hence, there is no other solution at the moment. It's just accepting teachers as grades. Plan for next year. Now we are sending all the children back to school next week, and we've seen an increase in infection rate in the UK. We've seen an increase in infection rate spiraling in France. We look at our European partners, and what happens in Europe usually happens to us a week or 2 later, and we must be prepared for a second spike in this virus. And coming next May, June, they might not be doing exams. Right? So we need to make sure that we've got a robust formula. I've got staff training this week coming up, and I'm building in not only just the 2 mock exams that we do, additional teaching assessments. We are planning, just in case that we end up with another year where the children don't do exams, that we've got robust evidence for all of our children.
Rashid bhai, thank you very much for that. ধন্যবাদ আপনারে যারা দেখরা সবাইরে আবার ওয়েলকাম করলাম Bideshi Vibes of wherever you're watching from. You are truly welcome. Today is the 5th episode. If you missed the beginning, inshallah you can catch up on our Facebook page and as well as on the YouTube channel. We have already introduced to you Crack the Code. Just a small addition to Salam Jones's book, the Bangladeshi Diaries. for everyone who's interested in the prize. It's Salam Jones is a very creative person from a different angles, with very very creative people behind him as volunteers. With this book, it's about his journey into Bangladesh, and it's mainly about photographs of different places, different people, the landscape, and things like that. So it's really essentially a photography book. My question to আশিক ভাই, আমার একটা প্রশ্ন হলো আশিক ভাই, আমরা সবকিছু মাঝে হলো সবচেয়ে বড় বিষয়টা হলো যে কোভিড এর কারণে সিচুয়েশন সবাই লাগে ডিফারেন্ট হইছে। স্টুডেন্ট হলো লাগে, টিচার হলো লাগে, ইনস্টিটিউশন হলো লাগে, সরকার হলো লাগে। সো আমরা শুধুমাত্র ধরে রাখা সরকারের দোষ অথবা শিক্ষকদের দোষ, এক্সক্লুসিভলি কেউরের দোষ তো অত সহজ নয়, but different people have responsibility to contribute in this very unpredicted circumstances, as it were. Now my question here is, all of us who are watching this program, as well as the three participants, yourself, me, and Kobir Bhai, we've all been through GCSEs, we've been through A levels. Alhamdulillah, I think all of us have done degrees as well. Now we know that the struggle that we had to go through to do our GCSEs as well as the A levels, and to experience that whole process, I would say it's a life lesson. So when people are having to get grades on the basis of an algorithm with AI, artificial intelligence, that definitely, that cannot take every human element into consideration, as you've made it very clearly. At the same time, as you said, the teachers were suggesting this as a solution. I think I'm personally a bit I'm not sure, because I just feel like, okay, my student, I like her, I like him, they've done very well overall. Or let's give them something more, something successful. Let's be extra sympathetic because of the lockdown situation. But the reality is that they haven't been able to study. So if you're talking about an exam where you're actually assisting their ability, particularly where there's a lot more pressure that could come on just before exam. Okay, mocks is a window to a real exam. Mocks is not the exam itself. So therefore, that stage of their life, I would say, even with due respect to the grace, they would be sad because they're going into college and they're going into university with a bit of trouble. They're actually missing out this big, massive lesson of life, which is life as different academic, work-wise, social-wise, so on and so forth. So do you think that even though there's some solution that you can do, but there's a sense of trauma at different levels for the kids, for their families, and overall the whole climate of exams, would you say that it's going to be meaningful enough? We go back to normality, whatever that looks like, which is very unlikely. I agree with you. I think we're going to have to prepare some alternative form of assessment that is fair, that is just, and that gives those life lessons that these young people can go back to. So in all of this, do you think that these kids would have taken a life lesson with them when they're going to college now and university?
Right. So, these children will be seen slightly differently. But what you have to realize is these children have been going through one of the most deadliest pandemic in our living history. The last time the UK lost so many additional deaths was probably during, Second World War, because, this is what we have to, based on the statistics that is available. In terms of our Bangladeshi community, we had hit, especially at the beginning. I questioned some of those figures from Public Health England report back in May, because I tried to count how many Bangladeshis died in each of the areas. I wrote to the councillors in Redbridge, Newham, Tower Hamlets, as well as some of the leaders in Oldham and Canterbury, Edinburgh, and so on, where the large Bangladeshi communities are. And the numbers for me did not stack up. Yes, initially we lost quite a few, but I don't think we lost that many. The way they were making it, that we are twice as likely to die. A lot of us would have been happy and accepted if our elderlies died from heart attack or, kidney failure, but for them, as 75, 80, 85-year-old to go into hospital and have COVID-19 certificate was really unfair. Going back to the young people, the schools and colleges will have to adjust, because I remember when I was doing my A-levels, there were some children who didn't have to do much studying because their school already taught them aspects of A-level. Whereas we went to a local school which didn't treat minority children that well. They had low expectation. I told you They said to me, "You do well to be a good waiter." That's the expectation they had of me and my classmates. So hence, when we had to study harder to just to play catch up, and our community children will have to play catch up because just because of COVID, it doesn't mean the middle class children have stopped learning. Those families would have not only invested in textbooks and resources that are available through Amazon and online, they would have got work from school and teachers, but they would have also employed private tutors through Zoom and through Skype and so on, so that their children do not fall behind. Okay, and this is what our children are going to be competing with. Because when the exam papers in 2 years' time, when they do their A levels, right, these children have not fallen behind. Our children are playing catch up. They're only 6 months behind, and they have it'll be the same paper. And if 65% is a grade B for A level, hypothetically speaking, our children will have to be able to access that 65%. Otherwise, they will not get those grades. So, it's parents will have to make a lot of choices going forward. They will have to invest in their children and make sure that they've been given adequate time and space to work. They might even have to, if the schools don't provide the resources, go to WS Smith and Amazon and so on, buy the course books and specifications, create their own checklist to make sure that the children are covering the content, buy some assessment packs that are readily available, as well as downloading past year's papers so that these children are prepared for the real exam. I am pretty sure by next year, the government will find a solution to actually examine those children, whether it's bringing them in socially distanced, sitting into exam halls and doing school, in schools, or creating online papers that gets released, as they log into the computers at that time. Yes, there might be some IT issues, right? But they will find a way to assess those children so that we don't have that issue of, teacher assess grades, algorithm, and so on. And finally, answering your question about accountability, the most senior civil servant in Department of Education was dismissed last week for the exams fiasco, and that's the person who's at the moment holding the can. A lot of people wanted the Secretary of State. But we've got a long way to go. Schools are open next week. Teachers and governing body are working flat out to ensure that the safety of their staff and students is #1 priority. If the children are not safe, we can't teach them. I'm going to advise your viewers, parents, be ready to send your children because the government line is if they don't turn up to school, they will get fined. But take into account safety precautions. Because if they're living with extended families, elderly parents, grandparents, when they come home, change their school clothes, give them a shower, so that they, if they've touched somebody throughout the day, schools will be as clean as it can be. Right? We are putting additional layers of hourly cleaning of every single surface that get touched. Children will be kept in, what we call bubbles. We are creating year groups, so each year group will stay in each floor. They will be denied. Some of the kids will be denied the practical lessons of design technology, science, and so on. We are forcing our children to come in PE kit on the days they've got PE lesson. We've rearranged our timetable. So PE lessons are at the end of the day. When they finish, they can go straight home. So they don't have to get changed. They don't have to be in a classroom with the smell of sweat and so on. So head teachers are doing that kind of stuff to support the children. But parents must be extra vigilant to make sure that personal hygiene in school and at home is maintained. Spend a few pounds a week on hand sanitizers, hand wash. Make sure the children have proper shower every single day as soon as they return, so that if they do give a hug to their grandparents or whatever, they're not putting them at any extra risk.
Absolutely. Do you not think, just obviously the precautions regarding COVID and how parents, students should behave, and also the school itself, that's all fine. But do you not think there's an argument here for institutes, academic institutes, especially schools and college, to actually build up and start working on the welfare, the mental and psychological welfare of the students to build up mental strength? Because a lot of these young people, the ages, obviously, the ages that are impacted, for example, anything from 11 onwards, it's the very, very first time where they've had enormous restrictions placed upon them. Like you mentioned, they couldn't even hug their loved ones. That is not something they have been used to. So, men psychologically, it would have some kind of impact. on their young minds. And I think schools and colleges and universities need to actually work on that welfare to increase their mental strength and therefore their capabilities. Because I think this particular generation have been will be impacted hugely.
Right, this is 100%. Week one, there'll be the safety training for students and staff. Then there will be the making sure the children are happy, getting them back into some form of normality, whether it's through team building exercises where the children within their own bubbles are able to do things creatively so that they come back to the love of learning. Because yes, you're right, they were not able to hug people. I visited my elderly parents. My mother was hospitalized during lockdown. My father is extremely unwell, but I could not give them a hug because what if I'm COVID positive? Right, I'm going from London up to Oldham, so it's hard. It's hard for people. It's not just for me; it's for others. So, in terms of looking after and building resilience, mental welfare, schools will be, going above and beyond to make sure that they can support children. Because, like you said, Kabir, right? No, people are not used to being in lockdown for that long. And one example that I used, to challenge a lot of my staff when they didn't want, to open school back in June when we opened for year 10, was when we look at children in Tower Hamlets, Neom, Hackney, and inner city areas of the UK, right? Their conditions for some of them is worse than what you get in a juvenile prison. In a juvenile prison, you will get basketball courts, you will get TV, you'll get PlayStation 4, you'll get your own space. These children are sharing bedrooms. They don't have back gardens. They, are not allowed out of their own homes. Right? It's tough in there. Right? And if a family member becomes ill, they haven't got the space to isolate that family member. Right? So this is what the families have been dealing with. And also we saw what happened to especially our community, not just the queuing up for the food, the price of chicken and meat and rice, the price of pan. People were queuing up for hours and hours. Families were struggling, because we had significant increase in our household expenditure and the income hasn't increased. But not only that, a lot of people lost their jobs. Right? So these children, when they go back to school, normality is what they need, and schools will give them that space to have that normality, to be surrounded by familiar faces, people that they've grown up with, classmates and teachers that they know who care for their welfare.
Thank you very much, Ashid Bhai. Dhanyabad apnare. Alhamdulillah. Lots of important discussion in regards to the current exam fiasco, particularly for GCSE and A level. And I know the BTEC issue hasn't necessarily been solved. We're actually going into the most important part of our program now, Ashid Bhai. You need to be very fit and ready. I know you've had the chance to take on a challenge at the Oxford Union with the debate, which we might discuss a bit later on, inshallah. But now you're actually going to be on the challenge now. It's called on the spot. Bideshi Vibes, this is what we're renowned for. We're putting you on the spot. We've got 3 rounds of the game, which is the first one is Bideshi Naam, second one is Bideshi Kham, and then the bonus challenge, the third one, inshallah. This is to really bring out the Bangladeshi within you. So whatever level of Bangladesh you have for your family, for your roots, from here going to Bangladesh, it's about to start, inshallah. যারা দেখরা সবাই অনুরোধ কোরআন শরীফ করার লাগে আমরা সবচেয়ে উত্তম অংশ হইল বিদেশি বাইরে হইল অন দ্য স্পট চ্যালেঞ্জ। আমরা গ্যাস তারা আইন তারারে আলোচনার পরে হঠাৎ করে আমরা দৌড়ি যাতে আমরা যে ভাই আপনি যে বাংলাদেশি আসলে বাংলাদেশে কতক্ষণ ওটার পরিচয় কিছু বার করতাম চাই। এখন আমরা একটা গেম সবসময় খেলাই, একটা নাম হলো অন দ্য স্পট। ও জায়গার দৌড়ি আমরা 3টা অংশ আছে। একটা হইলো যে দেশি নাম, এই জিনিসটা ঠিকার নাম দেখা লাগবে যে জিনিসটা দেখতে আমি জানি আসলে এই জিনিসটা কিতা। আর একটা হলো খাম, ও দেশের বিভিন্ন জিনিস আমরা বাংলা ভাষায় এটারে মানে খোয়ার লাগে। আর বোনাস একটা চ্যালেঞ্জ রাখবো। সো আশিদ ভাই, আপনি কি রেডি? Are you ready for it, Ashid?
Ready as I will be. Okay.
Okay, producer, bring on the first round with the Shinam. Okay, Ashid bhai.
What? That's interesting.
You can see
I've told you
pictures one by one. What's the name?
Kharkal.
Khatol.
Kharkel. That's a vegetable.
Oh, kharkel.
Kharkel.
Fine. Okay, I got it. I know what it means. Okay. Go on. Next one then.
Booby.
Did you say your
That
Bobby?
looks delicious,
booby.
by the way.
Okay. Okay, you said booby, yeah?
Yep.
Because
It's a
you're from
food.
up north. Because you're from up north, I thought you meant Babiaki. You're calling your Bobby.
No. Booby, I'm going to stick to it. If I carry on repeating it, it's going to sound bad. So, booby, for now, will do.
The next one.
Right. I can't even tell what this is. I can give you a name, but I don't
Okay,
think
let's
it's
go
food.
to the third.
I think. Right, that's a lot clearer.
What is this one?
How big are they? Are they small, big, size of a marble? I need to know how big they are.
Tennis ball, golf ball sizes. Tennis and golf ball sizes. Golf ball is more common.
If it's
No,
tennis
golf
balls,
ball.
I don't know. If it's golf ball, it could be looky. Anything bigger will be atafol. So that's it.
Okay. Afne koison, afne beta kiru khorra dekha jao. Let's go for the next one. Okay. Huh?
Dul.
All right.
Dul.
Okay. Dul.
Could be Hindi word,
We have
Bangla word.
like
delicious today, ain't we?
Ashit bhai Sahosh Baridar. They can. Oh, very interesting.
This is very designer, right? This is designer, but it's in my area we call it
This one
surta.
looks like.
We call
This
it
one looks like it's
surta.
been made in the house of Versace.
Yep. It's used for cooking beetle nut, surta.
Ah, yes, it is. Wow.
Oh,
I thought it was
look at
made of
Kabir bhai. He's
Pharaoh.
going to open up himself. So have you ever used the item, Ashit bhai? The last
Many
item,
years ago. Many years ago. I banned pan in my households.
which is fine. But if your mother asks you, can you cut it for her?
We'll have to get some training again. Yes.
Do we know how many he's got right from the first round?
No, will that update?
I don't
will
think he
come
got all of them
later.
right, did he?
I don't expect to get any of them right, but I think I got at least one or two right.
No, inshallah, you got a few right. I would say I'm quite
He got three right. As
impressed.
far as I know, he got three right.
Wow, says the expert.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Who realized that it was a sorta, right? Right. Okay. So this one is Bideshi Kham. So what you want to do? The other one was naming. This one is looking at UK European items and then translating that, turning that into Bengali as much as possible according to the capacity of your Bangla ability, if you like. তো একটু হইলো বিদেশি বিভিন্ন জিনিস আপনি একটা বাংলায় হইতইবা বাংলা শব্দ ইউজ করিয়া এই জিনিসটারে হইতইবা producer yep, so here you go, the first one বাংলায় হইতইবা বাংলায়.
I am going to pass on this.
No, your pass is not an option.
Rings is angti, that's a different ring. Gulmul is not a ring, circle. Party, I have no idea what party means. Tamsha Gulmul, it doesn't make sense. Hialer Tamsha Gulmul, Fox is
become a common word in Bangladesh.
it's like you're insulting a head teacher here, which is quite embarrassing.
I've been taking my head off.
Hialer Tamsha angti. That's it.
That's quite funny. Yeah,
talk about literally translating. Okay, let's move to the next one, producer, please. Oh, nice. This one should be easy. I'm sure you got memories of that one.
Cow on gate. Cow is Guru and Gabi gate. I don't know whether we were talking about a gate to your house, gate to your garden, and whichever gate it is, I couldn't tell you what gate is in Bangla. I could not tell you. Somebody help me out.
Somebody will have the audience.
Guru, Gabi, guy.
আপনারা যারা দেখেন আমরা আশিক ভাই একটু হেল্প করুক তাই কইছেন কাউ এন্ড গেটে গরু হইলিছেন অথবা গাই হইছেন ঠিক আছে আই থিংক গাই ইজ মোর অ্যাপ্রোপ্রিয়েট ওকে গাই এন্ড and kita gate শব্দটা তো ইংলিশ শব্দ, এটা বাংলায় কোয়া যায়নি। কেউ যদি তখন anyone who's watching, you can give him a little bit of help. Ashit bhai, you managed quite well, so গরু হইছইন, but gate বাংলায় কোয়া আসেনি কিছু। Any words that you know for gate?
Gate দরজা তো জানালা। জানালা হইতো। জানালা হইতো না।
Janala is
Janala
window.
Janala is a lock.
No, janala is window.
Janala is the window.
Janala is window, I think. Window.
Yeah, janala is
window.
window.
Actually,
Doza
gate
is
is
door.
the only thing I can think of is pari.
It's very interesting. আমরা কই যে আমরা বাংলা ভাষার ভিতরে কত ইংলিশ ঢুকছে, it's unbelievable. So gate has become quite common, to be honest. Gate has become very common. Maybe even the original Bangla word for gate may have already been sidelined in the sense of our ability
Listen,
to
brothers,
remember.
listen, I don't know where you guys are from, okay? You guys could be from, different region from me. So when I go to Bangladesh,
yeah,
I'm from Novigonj. When I go to Bangladesh, I move to a village. Before you go to bed, someone will say, "Shamne janala lagayao," and janala to me means the front gate. So this is what I'm going to stick to. Okay.
Very interesting. Look at the
Well,
variation.
I've never heard of janala being front gate. It's always been window.
No problem. I'm not going to.
Let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Oh, this is a good one for a northerner.
Right. The hairy Suler Zamir, Suler Lebu.
Lebu?
Suler Lebu, yeah. Suler Zamir is Khasawasha. Lebu is slightly bit more.
That's nowhere near Zamir. Come on, that is so poor.
I'm not going to say Lembu. Suler Lembu, no. Suler Lembu, that's it.
Lembu, that's it.
Food and drink, food, khabar, and drink, fan kora, khabar and fan kora, khabar ebong fan.
Okay, so you say Suler. So আপনি কইছেন সুলের লেম্বু,
পানি
খাওয়া এবং পান করা, না কি তা?
খাবার এবং পান করা।
Okay.
Give me half an hour.
Right, producer, let's go to the next one, please. Oh, okay, it's the name of a restaurant. Focus on.
Jadur Sata. Jadur Bengal Sata.
Jadur Bengal Sata kitate. Restaurant, hotel.
I don't know. Restaurant. Tabla to desho hotel.
Hotel to English word nani.
Hotel is English, of course. Jadur Bengal Sata khabar jaga.
Acha, okay. Bengal Sata khabar jaga.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, but hold on. The mushroom is not Bengal Sata, is it really?
I don't listen. If you got a different name for it, you go for it. Yeah.
I don't think Kabir Bhai has a different name, so let's not pretend he knows all of it, by the way. Yeah, go for this one then.
Long John Silvers. Long lamba, but lomba. John is John in any language. Silver is Rufa. Lomba John Rufa.
All right. Okay. Interesting. There, the prawns are.
That's not bad. That's all, isn't it? We've got to accept that one.
All right. We'll take it for now, inshallah. We'll see what the audience say. Maybe today or later on when the comments come through, inshallah. It was we had to put you on the spot, mashallah. Bonus round is Mr. Miyagi or Miyagi, Mr. Miyagi. This one is the
wax off. The wax off.
তো wax off আপনি বাংলা কইতে পারবানি?
অসম্ভব।
Okay, so here it comes, Mr. Miyagi. You need to just listen to
first.
It. Yep.
Mr. Miyagi, it's over. It's over. Forget about it. No. I'm afraid. Let's just get out of here. I want to go home.
You're not must not. It's okay, lose your opponent.
Try to remember the lines. We have to translate in Bengali.
Not now. Well, after.
Sir, your best karate is still inside. Now time, let out.
Ashid bhai, when you're doing Mr. Miyagi, you've got to say it with the accent, brother, okay? Otherwise you don't win. You've got to say it with the accent.
Okay, Ashit bhai. So here
Okay,
it
so
goes.
let me just read
Hold
in
on.
English, okay?
Hold on, Ashit.
Danielson, Danielson,
Yeah,
no, I cannot, must not. It's okay to lose to an opponent, but you must not lose to fear. Stay focused, Danielson. Your best karate is still inside. Now is the time to let it out. Right, now let's translate this. So Danielson in Bangla is Daniel.
hold on. Ashit bhai. See if you can speak like Mr. Miyagi in Bengali.
Possible. If I went to a Korean theater, I would go to theater, okay? So
That's combined with the northern accent as well, inshallah. That would be the right.
Yeah,
just
go
have
on.
a go at
Actually, that's
translating.
yeah.
The text is gone. I can't even see it. Okay. Let me just have a go at translating this. All right. Daniel food na parbona. I must not is
Kunu?
this is hard. It's okay not to lose. To an opponent, it's okay not to lose to an opponent. ঠিক আছে যদি আরেকজন লোকে আরতে চাও না, but to me নিজে fear is boring. That's a tough word. I don't know what fear is. Fear is door, right? You know, তুমি দৌড়ের কাছে হারতে পারবে না। ধ্যান রাখো, Daniel Food. Your best card is তোমার ভালো মায়ের এখন রইয়া গেছে তোমার ভিতরে। এখন লইয়ার সময় to let it out. ভিতর থেকে বাহির করার জন্য। That's it. I will not repeat that.
That's not too bad. Actually, Yahya bhai, can you translate this into Bengali? Oh, I think we have lost him.
He's now switched his mic off.
Do you want to do this? Translate this into Bengali yourself. Have a go.
Which one?
Yeah, you say that in Bengali, then I will try and see whose is better. The guess.
Oh, you're asking me. You're asking me.
Yeah, go on.
Daniel Refut. Na. Fartam নাই অবশ্যই ফারতাম না আর ঠিক আছে তোমার অপোনেন্ট মানে যার বিরুদ্ধে তুমি মাইর করা তার লগে আর ঠিক আছে কিন্তু তোমার নিজের ডরের লগে আরতে পারতাই না তুমি তোমার বিরান্ডে জায়গা রাখো ড্যানিয়েলসন মানে ড্যানিয়েল রেফুত তোমার সবচেয়ে উত্তম মাই তোমার ভিতরে রইছে ওখন হইল সময় ইটারে বার করিয়া আনার
Oh, that's a really good attempt, actually.
All right, Kabir bhai, don't get so happy. And let's hear it from you. Everyone, Bideshi bhai, on I was such a perfect one. Basically, now you can get the best of the best, inshallah. That's another film, by the way.
Okay, I'm gonna give this a go. This will be pure Balagonji slang. Okay, Daniel Beta. Nah. Kunona. Khoriona. Tumi Arthai Parbai, but Aryo Dorayona. Dian Rakho Daniel Beta. Tumar Bashopse Bala Kerati, Ebo Bite Roise, Eblas the dog Bitra, the Shaholi Bahria Dila. That was pretty good, huh? That was pretty good. I think it was better than the guest.
I'm not claiming victory. I don't think he's claiming victory. The audience of Letara Zamrazan, inshallah.
Well, I'm claiming the victory anyway. I'm claiming the victory.
I think I gave you the meaning of some of the toughest words, like focus.
Listen, Ashid, while you're here, there is obviously we've spoken about the education. I mean, this is as much information as we know at this precise moment in time, and I think the world is obviously changing. Education will be changing, and you were talking about Zoom and online teaching. I think digital teaching is the way forward, and I think it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm pretty sure your academy and your school will be at the forefront. Before you tell us a bit about your school, actually, just wanted to touch base on a couple of things that you've achieved in your life so far. And certainly one of the things that you did was the debate at Oxford Union, What was all that about, and how did you manage to get on there? I mean, I have seen some of these debates, and it's very nerve-wracking. I mean, you talk about a lot of intellectual people there.
That was back in 2001 when we had riots in the northern towns of Oldham, Bradford, Burnley, and so on. And I was leading the campaign against the BNP. So I was the chairman of Oldham Coalition Against Racism, where we arranged a range of high-profile campaigns funded by the TUC, the Trade Union Council. We had a national conference in Oldham, which I chaired. And from that, I was invited to a range of conferences. And the main aim was to defeat Nick Griffin and the BNP in the electoral wars. And we did. We defeated them. They didn't win a single council seat, nor did they win the MP seat. But I was disheartened because thousands of people up and down in my hometown voted for the BNP and that negative message. So, that gave me some prominence, which, allowed me to speak in a number of platforms, ITV, BBC, Newsnight, Sky News, and range of the TV's radio station. And Oxford invited me along with, an opportunity to speak at a UN conference in South Africa. I was fully funded. And that was through the work that I was doing with the National Assembly Against Racism. From Oldham, I was coming down to London. Most of those meetings were held in Tower Hamlets. So the Oxford Union debate was quite scary because we were dealing with very intelligent young people who were futures of the country.
Opinionated people as well. Yeah.
Of course, vast majority of them, the parents are very wealthy, and vast majority of those young people are now in influential position, running the country, advising governments, running the banks and biggest institutions. So it was tough, it was scary, but I felt that it was necessary to go out there and let these decision makers listen to our viewpoints, listen to why we feel that it is important to fight for equality and social justice. We were not asking for special treatment of Black and minority people. We're asking for the same treatment. Okay, so this is what now we see with the Black Lives Matters in the US and globally. And again, some people keep on saying to me, all life matters. Of course, all life matters. But if you've got a family of 10 people, or if I've got a school of 500 children and one child disappears, right? The 499 are safe. I have a duty to go and find that one child, make sure that child is safe. My priority is with that one child until that child safely comes back to school, is found, located. I cannot sleep, I cannot go home. Likewise, until the rights of Black people and the minority groups are seen to be the same in every walk of life that we're engaged in, we must keep on campaigning for that equality. Hence the racial justice, hence the Black Lives Matters, the work that happened since Stephen Lawrence lost his life. This is where we got the definition of racism in the UK. Somebody had used their lives for us to have a definition that if a victim perceives something to be racist, it is racist. And that came from Macpherson report. And again, we see it in employment. People get denied interviews because of their surnames. People get denied jobs because of their accent, or their religious beliefs or their ethnic backgrounds. Back in February and March, we saw Chinese people in the UK, in London, being attacked because they thought these were carriers of COVID. Then we saw ethnic minorities on trains being attacked because the majority, the white people, thought that these could be carriers of COVID. Previous to that, we saw during the Brexit debate that the far right wanted minorities out. And a large number of us believe that the Brexit vote was won not on policies, but on immigration. We saw the current government trying to divert attention from the big issues of the country, which 2 weeks ago was about A-levels and GCSE results, as well as the current pandemic, but diverting the attention to few people trying to cross the English Channel into our country because they're trying to flee from distress, wars, famine, or whatever it might be in their own countries. We're talking about minute percentages, right? And again, we signed up to international agreements that refugees, if they get to our borders, will get the dignity, will get the rights as refugee status. So, I felt that it was necessary to take the arguments for Black and minority people, not only just to my hometown of Oldham, but across the country and internationally. And I dedicated a lot of time and effort and energy into that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, discussing racism in South Africa of all places, straight after apartheid had ended, and we don't have actually much long to go, but you see what's happening at the moment. Over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen a huge emphasis on racial politics dividing our political viewpoint and the thought process. And Brexit, Donald Trump, the elections in France, and also in Holland, etc. Even India, for example, is where the governments are purely basing themselves on nationalism and racial politics. And that's been increasing and it's been rife over the last 20, 25 years. And it's now heavily embedded in politics. The danger we have actually as a result of COVID, because everybody's becoming more isolated. So rather than resolving the problem through integration and being tolerant and understanding of each other's culture and differences and sharing the commonality, because we're going to be living in a very online world, a digital world, and a very isolated world where we are not going to even see our family members, let alone make friends and integrate into different communities and cultures. This is now the spectrum is just going to get wider and wider and wider. And rather than, I think, the situation at the moment of actually diminishing or decreasing, I think it might just escalate even more.
It is a tough call because minorities, as you mentioned, whether it's India or the US, or other parts of the world, will continue to suffer. And the reason why they continue to suffer is when the good people of the world ignore what's going on. They pretend it's not happening. So, one of my beliefs has always been that we need more and more of our young people to be proactive, gain those university degrees. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, you have a debt to carry with you, when you go into student loan and so on and so forth, right? But your earning power will improve. But you need to be working those mainstreams so that the mainstream society can see the positives of working with minority people. Because when they interact with you, what we don't want is them to say, you're okay, but the others are different. Right? You're a good Muslim, the others are not. Right? Your type of Bangladeshi is fine, but the other Bangladeshi are not. It's our job to be in those workplaces, having those positive values, right? Not assimilating, that's different, integrating, showing that I'm here on merit. I'm going to keep my name and my identity. Right? I'm going to keep my culture. I'm going to keep my religious beliefs. No, I will pray when it doesn't affect the work. If needs be, I'll do it during my break time or outside my work hours, so that doesn't affect you. But you are going to judge me on the content of my character rather than the color of my skin or the ethnic background I have. So we need to be out there positively promoting those good people and those good stories so that we can get into the hearts and minds of the ordinary people. There will always be people who read your daily mail, people who will be watching, certain soap operas and sitting at home saying the foreigners are taking our jobs, right? Rather than getting up from the backside and saying, where are the jobs? Am I prepared to apply? And am I prepared to relocate or train for those jobs? They'll blame the other people. It's easy to do. But we need to be the better people and encourage our community to go out there and show the positives that we can offer. It's okay to maintain your cultural heritage and your language and so on, but it's also okay to learn a new language and a new trade and go out there and show the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Ashid bhai. আমার একটা final একটা প্রশ্ন আছে আসলে এই প্রশ্ন just is connected to this topic, and I think আমরা দর্শক যত ভাই বোন হলে দেখরা সবাই আমি মনে করি এটা very very important. Before I go to that, I'd like to ask Kabir bhai just to give the answers for crack the code, and then I'll move on to this last question, which I think everyone, including us as parents, will benefit, and our audience, and we'll finish up and wrap it up for tonight, inshallah.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. Yeah. And you know what? You won't believe it. There are no correct answers today. Nobody's heard of Google, for example, in order to give us the right answers. But the answers are, for the 5 questions that we had, yes, in 1990, Iraq was trying to invade Kuwait. They did for certain perspective, and that's been really the war on war in the Middle East really started over the last 20, 30 years. It was Kuwait.
I have the answers.
The Duchess, which is obviously Meghan Markle. Duchess. That's that's the second answer to the second question. The answer to the third question is aorta.
There you go. Kuwait, Duchess, aorta, alopecia, and hydrogen.
And alopecia is for somebody who's losing their hair. In fact, my first ever boss, actually my first ever job, had alopecia. And every time I see a hair drop, actually, every time I see falling out, I always remember him. And the answer to question number 5 was hydrogen. And brother Ashid, what is the actual 5-letter word? Considering you're telling me that you've got all the answers correct.
I thought the 5-letter word would have flowed from the first answer all the way to the end, but it doesn't, right?
It's mixed up, it's scrambled.
If it's mixed up, it's hard because you have to give us a clue what topic we're on, what theme we're looking at. Because I could make up a number of words out of.
Ashid Bhai is asking for a lot of mercy. We can't be that merciful. Go on, see what you make up with all of those 5 letters.
Dhaka. Right. Yep.
Dhaka. Yeah, Dhaka.
Well done, mashallah. There you go. You know what? I tell you what, Kohir Bhai, I think I'm more than happy for Ashid Bhai to receive a copy of the Bangladeshi Diaries, which has
I've got 20 copies in my school already.
Yeah, he basically said he wants an Everton shirt signed by all the players. He's not going to get Everton shirt signed by the players. He might get an Everton.
I don't get Everton. Who are they?
Actually, Ashid Bhai, that talking about racism, that could be another separate program altogether. And we would like to bring you on for that one in the future. But in the meantime, Yahya Bhai, there's a very, very fundamental question that you need to ask.
Yeah, I think in all of this situation, we know that probably education has been the biggest worry. Of course, income has been a big worry, but in GCSE and A-level is one of the most fundamental time for families, parents, guardians, community, the nation as a whole. And for minority communities is even more because it's almost like a lifeline and a breakthrough, basically. And all of this, to be fair, for me as an individual, all of this on earth, okay? My biggest worry is that we may have, alhamdulillah, even through this predicted grace, we know that a lot of our community students have done very well, and congratulations to them and to their parents. My hat's off to them, and my dua and prayers are for all of them, including our own family members and potentially our own children who will be taking those exams in due course. One thing for me is that whilst we are so keen to have our kids go to Oxford or Cambridge or Oxbridge for that matter, or the Russell Group universities here in the UK, or somewhere like Yale, Harvard, Stanford, and MIT, if you like, all of those great places, that as soon as your nephew or my niece gets a place, we know that recently a young boy got a £250,000 or dollar, scholarship to I think was it Yale or Harvard, I think, one of those two universities. To Yale. For that parent, for that community, for the audience, it's a massive thing. It's an absolutely massive thing. But here's my question, and I would like Ashid Bhai as a parent. Of course, I know you're a parent. Kohir Bhai is there. I'm also a parent, but my son is not old enough for his GCSEs as of yet. He's going to go into secondary school next year. But I don't want having so much. I put so much effort into trying to kind of, get them to get to the school, best college, best university, whether it's through private effort because I've got the funds for it, or whether it's through sheer talent and hard work. I do all of that, and then what happens is that my child, I've created such an imbalance where academically they're brilliant, but when it comes to their own roots, their own faith, their own morals, and all of that, I've lost. I can potentially lose as child in all of this in the name of success, when we're not looking at success in a balanced way. I don't want my son turning up after finishing a Yale degree and I'm on my deathbed and he doesn't know how to recite a bit of the Quran for me. How would you encourage that balance for all of us? Second generation parents, inshallah, third generation, even the existing generation who are our parents. Thank you.
Okay, but yeah, but that is actually a really interesting question and a really important question, because these debates we've have at families open up the country. Okay, I made a sacrifice when I was 15. My whole family went to Bangladesh. I was home alone at 15. I don't know if that was legal or illegal, because I went to do my exams. My parents said, "No, we're going. Your older brother's getting married. I will be back in 6 weeks." 9 months it took them, right? And so I made a sacrifice, because for me, getting to the next step of the ladder was important. There was an opportunity for me to get to college, whereas my other brothers didn't. Okay, in terms of, as families, we must make sure that we've got routines, right? Established routines. It's not just about pass your GCSE and A level, go to university, and move on. Established routines means, by spending time with your family, doing your schoolwork, doing your Arabic lessons, praying your prayers on time, visiting your relatives, and so on, right? Engaging in community affairs. It's like you can't just turn around and say, we expect everyone to turn up to our birthdays and our weddings and our, akika, but we can't go to anybody else because my children are revising at home, and that's it, right? We need to get a balanced lifestyle, right? If we put all our eggs in one basket, yes, there is a possibility that you could have a child who's you've done so much for, you can be so proud of, right? Then suddenly, they've gone astray and not to your liking. They might be successful in the current world that they're living in, right? They'll have lots of letters after their names, they'll have managerial careers and so on. But as a family, inside, you'll be saddened, why? What have I done? No. When my sister was going to go to medical school, and this is now recorded, okay? My brother Molana said, we don't educate girls, because we need to, we have a duty as older brothers. Parents have passed that on to us to make sure that they're married to a successful family with the same status and so on. I said, listen, brother, I agree with you. I drove down from London. That night, we very rarely I debate and disagree with my older brothers. I know that's something that we grew from a young age. We then eventually, with a lot of difficulty, agreed that we're going to make sure she goes to university. She's going to come in at that time. We're going to make those phone calls. We're going to drive her up every weekend, bring her back. We made that commitment. And alhamdulillah, she became a doctor, junior doctor, GP, and so on. And now everyone's happy. My mom and dad are ill. Whose advice do you listen to? My own sister, because I had to get hold of a doctor. So it's important that families make that sacrifice. So if you are going down that route, that your child cannot go to a local university, but they can stay at home, right? You need to make sure that you don't lose connection. Okay, we see it in big university towns like London, Birmingham, Manchester, where once the children have gone, yes, there's Freshers Week and so on. You join societies, you're out there partying, clubbing, and then over time, when they come home, the boys and girls, right, will say Assalamu alaikum, put their headscarf on, and when they go over there, things change, right? Parental responsibility does not end. That child is never older than the parents. I will say to my two children, they're now 15, 16, I'll say to them, the day you don't follow my rules, go out there, get your own house, get your own job, pay your own bills, right? Whilst you're here, you need to follow my rules. Sometimes we'll disagree, but I make the decision here, right? That's how it's going to be. But what is also important as parents, that we don't disagree and argue in front of the kids, because the kids are smart, they'll play one against the other, right? But we want our children to do well in life. We want them to progress. We want them to get the high-flying jobs in City of London, Canary Wharf, and the other big areas. But we don't want to lose our children, right, to the society as a whole, that they become a machine, right, for the employers, and they forget who the families are. I remember when I was working in a restaurant many, many years ago, and just before Christmas, I'll hear people, swearing and saying, damn, it's this time of the year, it's Christmas, I have to go and visit my parents again. We don't want that in our society, okay? And that's a tough call. So sometimes you have to make that sacrifice and say, is Oxford and Cambridge the right choice for me? Or do I keep the local UCL, King's, equally very good universities, right? If you're living in Greater Manchester, Manchester's got good university, right? Liverpool's got good university, Leeds got good universities. So parents will have to make that choice. Sometimes, if the parents have got enough in their life, maybe you might have to rehouse and say, okay, we want to live our lives through our children's dreams and ambitions. Let's get a house next to Cambridge or Oxford where they can stay with us, right? It's again another choice you can make. It's expensive, but it's worth that investment. Yeah. So there is no right answer here, right? Once you get your child to do master's and PhD, if they disappear after parents failed, no, your duty was to guide them towards adulthood, and you've done that, right?
That's right.
So it's again, I say to my parents regularly, if the school offers you the opportunity for your sons and daughters to pray, let them. If they give you the opportunity to do azan and khutbah, whatever, encourage them. I encourage my sons to do azan in school. I encourage other people's children to do azan and khutbah in my own school. I get them to lead the normal prayers. The Jummah prayer, we try and get the most senior person available. So things like that you have to encourage. But parents, again, they will spend a lot of money for their school education, but you must make sure that you spend some money towards your Arabic and your religious education, because once we go 6 foot under, it's not a degree certificate we're going to leave behind. We're going to leave behind pious children who can do the du'as for us, who can pay to charity, and hopefully that will be the part that rescues us from hellfire. Yeah, I know it's not that point. There's no correct answer here. It's a tough one.
Thank you very much, Ashid. But no, you're right. I don't think we can have a fixed answer. As a person, I really believe the sense of balance is very important. If both worlds, if this world and another world matters equally to me, as you spoke about the opportunity to have, everyone should have the same opportunity, and in that same way, we should be able to view both of those just as important. I would personally say 60-40 for me, but I would say, that if we're able to make effort to get our kids to pass their GCSEs, pass their A levels, get those big opportunities in the institution, then we should have a similar attitude to see them off with a solid foundation, a principled foundation, that they can make the right human moral choices to be able to be connected to where their parents and where their families have been connected from. We want them to be for us and not become against us and our identities. Definitely it's a balance. It's not an easy job. There are some good examples, and if we're very keen, we will be able to find them, but we have to invest in that. If we are desperate enough to invest in getting the dunya, then we have to invest similar, if not more, in a life much longer than this limited reality. But I want to wrap up here. I want to first and foremost say a big thank you to Ashid Ali Bhai. Thank you so much, and thank you for wonderful discussion here. We obviously couldn't discuss every topic, but I'm sure people have benefited and will benefit when they come to watch this. Congratulations to the London Enterprise Academy. We wish you many years, many decades of success, and hopefully it will be an inspiration for other British Bangladeshis around the UK to take such initiatives. And I'm sure we as second generation, if our third generation do better than us by being inspired by us, we would feel that that is a reward that we've already reaped, alhamdulillah. So we look forward to great things from them through our good examples. And once again, thank you, and maybe we will invite you again. We apologies for any shortcomings. Definitely apology for putting you on the spot and squeezing you, but that's sometimes you have to squeeze your students to bring the best out of them, right? So also had to happen. So once again, thank you to the producer, thank you to Ashid Ali, thank you to our viewers, and Kabir Bhai, a few words.
Yeah, well, thank you very much again to our esteemed guest. And again, another episode that's gone very, very quickly. Now, our audience, if you like what we do, then why don't you tweet, tag, like, share, fb.com Bideshi Vibes. Tell your friends and your network about us. Let them into your online world and what you consume in terms of content. Each single fortnight, we will have a very special topic that we discuss, and obviously very esteemed guests from their different professions to discuss what we want to discuss. These are questions and topics that are raised by you, our audience, that we try to provide some answers for, but at least some kind of direction for in our fortnightly episodes. It's been another fabulous episode. Thank you so much for joining in. From myself, have a very good evening, and assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, everyone, and that's a wrap, folks. Do look out for the messages. The prize goes to Ashid Bhai for the on the spot. We don't know. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Good evening.
Assalam.